Session at the second annual Exotic Research Conference in Mesa, Arizona. This afternoon we begin the Modern Health Hazards and Solutions segment of our program. And our first guest is he's as far as the pertinent to today's presentation, he's an exporter, importer, businessman, and specifically dealing with the Russian market. And under the auspices of that enterprise, this gentleman has discovered while visiting Russia some fascinating material that he's going to review with you today. It's called TTL. It's a Soviet performance enhancer that has got a fascinating track record. And I'll throw it over to our guest today, Steve Ammerman, to bring you all the exciting details. Steve.
All right, thank you, Tyler. Thank you. Been going over to Russia since 1992. The Russian Army invited 6 of us Vietnam vets to go and work with the Russian Afghani vets, so I did it mostly for a ministry and got into import-exporting. During that first year, a man goes by the name of Mr. California, he's Leo, that's his title holder for California, bodybuilder. He was getting Treblis terrestris, Tribus the trade name. The Bulgarians have been using it for years. They're the leading country of the world in bodybuilders. And until the wall went down in the early 90s, they was beating us. We didn't know what they was doing and using steroids or what. So he sent me a box of this in Russian. We located it in Sofia, Bulgaria, the capital, their pharmaceutical company. I had 10 bottles of it brought in. I sent 2 of them to FDA in Washington and asked them if Treblis terrestris was on their hit list, could I bring it in, or where I could stand on it. They told me that it was not on the top 20 hit list. They don't approve dietary supplements, they just disapprove them. So we started locating it. We checked every pharmaceutical company in the US. They had never heard of Treblis terrestris L. It's a Greek name. The little sandy burr that sticks to your socks in the summertime, this is the extract from the root of that, and that's all it is. However, that is a natural plant steroid from the sapion family, and the L is a luteinizing hormone from the plant family. Bodybuilders, when they go in and do their leg exercises at the gym, they're telling me that in 30 days they're going in and doing the entire lower, then they turn around and do the entire upper. The next day, they're only a fourth as sore as if they just did the lower without being on TTL. So what you're doing is doubling and tripling your stamina, which means you can work out twice as long, so you're growing muscles naturally by working out, not taking steroids that you don't know where they're going to let you off at, like a synthetic steroid. I've got lab tests that's been done on rats, pigs, men, and women with this same capsule on sexual deficiency. If a man's not producing enough male hormone to get his spouse pregnant, it'll balance him out. If a woman's unbalanced chemically, it'll balance her out. I've got a lot of veterinarians that use it for their breeding stock and all. They have expensive stock that's not breeding. So this, we know bodybuilders have used it for years successfully. Sexual deficiency in men and animals and women, it balances them out. So like I was saying, we couldn't find Treblis terrestris in any pharmaceutical company here in the US, so I'm getting it out of a foreign country. That original formula was 1 capsule per 44 pounds of body weight. I've improved on the formula. Theirs is a big horse pill for 44 pounds. I've got a small capsule for 88 pounds. So for every 88 pounds of body weight, you need 1 capsule. We originally brought it in called Enlarger. It was going to be for sexual deficiency in men and bodybuilders, and thought that was a good name for it. I drastically started getting more women taking it than men, and Enlarger was embarrassing them to them, so we changed the name to TTL. The way I found out about the arthritis pain, my urologist there in Duncanville gave me this 65-year-old black man that his wife died, married a younger woman, wanted to get sexually active. Well, when I went to check on him in 30 days, he said, I don't care if this does what the doctor wants to or not. And I said, what are you talking about? You're blowing my program apart here. He said, I'm totally pain-free. When I get out of bed, I pinch myself, I can feel it, so I guess I got feeling. He says he wakes up 4 to 6 times in severe arthritis pain during the night. Well, at that point, I specifically went out and found the most extreme cases of arthritis sufferers. One man I was able to locate in '97 was Ray Field Wright with the Dallas Cowboys. 5 Super Bowl rings, 8 up with arthritis, 265 pounds, 6'7". In 19 days, Ray called me from here in Phoenix, where he lives, and ordered 10 cases of this for him and his football buddies. Totally pain-free. Out of 9,000 people, I've only paid back 8 people. I give a 3-week money-back guarantee. If you have any pain in 3 weeks, you get your money back. Another thing that I found out, I also give a money-back guarantee on this same herb for women's hair growth. Men have a bald gene in us, so out of 100 men, I'll get definite hair growth out of 65 to 78% of the men. Women, I get 100%. Usually in 2.5 to 3 weeks, a woman will start getting definite new hair growth. Now, the advantage over mine over Rogaine. Once you get on Rogaine, you've got to stay on it because it enhances the secondary hair growth. Mine enhances the primary hair growth. So if a woman wanted to thicken up her hair scalp, I'd recommend her to be on it for like 60 to 90 days and then get off of it. All that new hair growth she gets within 2.5 to 3.5 weeks, she's going to maintain it. I've got doctors in Honduras using this same formula of mine, using it with lupus and flea bitis patients and getting drastic improvement. They normally give them steroids and it bloats them up and they don't know where they're going to be let off at. Mine does everything they want their synthetic steroids to do with no side effects. I've had numerous sugar diabetes. Now these are only testimonies that I'm saying. I'm not making any claims on this because of FDA. They won't let me do that. I think we understand that. I've got numerous sugar diabetes patients telling me within 40 to 60 days they're taking a half to a fourth of the insulin that they're taking before getting on my tablet. I've had numerous sugar diabetes patients, cancer patients. One man in Florida was 7.2, another one was 6.8 blood cancer count. Within 40 days, they're back down to 1.89, 2.1, which between 2 point and 3 point is normal. One man got off of it after getting down. He changed doctors and got off my TTL pill. And a year later, he called me, matter of fact, just a few months ago, and said, I've changed doctors. It's back up to the 5.5 range. He got on it. Within 30 days, it was back down to normal. In other words, when you take a steroid, a football player injures his knee, they shoot that knee full of steroids to heal it. When you take the TTL capsule, it's non-selective. It's going to go everything on your skeleton and make it stronger. Your heart, your liver, your urinary tract, arthritis, pain, hair growth, the list just goes on and on. I've been real impressed with it. I've got two separate teams of doctors contact me. Just here in the last 30 or 40 days, one group wants me to produce it under a tab form, where you put a patch form, where you put a patch on and you just put it on once a week and you have it without your dosage. The normal dosage for this, for the average person, say 200 pounds and less, is going to be 1 little capsule 3 times a day with meals. If you don't eat 3 times a day like I don't, then I take 2 capsules at one time and 1 at another time during the day. At the end of 30 days, then you go down to the maintenance level, which is a capsule and a half or 2 capsules if you don't want to mess cutting a capsule in half. We originally had it in the pill form, and I switched it over to the capsule because it's easier for the body to digest and accept it. But 3 weeks is the longest I've seen anybody go with this. So if you want to cure arthritis, or I'm working with a DO doctor, a pain doctor there in Cedar Hill, Texas. He's got x-rays to prove that taking cartilage, Knox gelatin actually grows cartilage back on the bone. However, that will take about a year and a half to do that process, and during that time you're in severe arthritis pain. So I don't want to just say, well, this will stop the pain and you're going to have to take my capsule the rest of your life. If you're trying to grow cartilage back on your body, go down to Walmart for like $6.47. That's a 2-week supply. It's a little orange tub called NutriJoint. You take that properly for a year and a half, it will literally grow cartilage back according to the DO doctor. And then you can get off of my pill. A lot of people like my capsules because if you got a physical job, 2 or 3 in the afternoon, you start playing out and you've got another 4 hours of work to do, you're not going to make it. Now you don't feel anything on the TTL. Energy you feel. It's when your energy level drops that it's the stamina that keeps you going. This gives you stamina. You won't feel anything except when you need that extra stamina to put in that extra 3 or 4 hours a day at work, it's going to be there. You don't even worry about it anymore. A lot of women are losing weight by it because when they come home, they're so tired, they cook, they eat, they plop down in front of the TV, they don't move for the rest of the night. They're telling me that in 15, 20 minutes after resting, after they eat, the next thing they know, they're up in the kitchen, moving around and walking and doing things in the yard and all. Well, instead of eating and sitting down, they're losing weight by having more stamina to keep going. That's on the TTL pill. And then I do want to get into the Collodial Silver generators that I produce here. Do we have any questions I can answer right now quickly on the TTL? If not, I'll also be in the bookstore for the rest of the day also. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, would there be anything on that material in the Medline database?
You can look up scainternational.com, and I've got a whole web page on there. Steve also has a big article on me on his exotic research. Now, I've got one man that's on the back of the TTL information. It's a testimony. He was a heart patient, had 3 open heart surgeries in 5 days. He was taking like 5 heart pills and a heart patch a day, blood pressure 200 over 100. Okay, if you're on other medication, drugs, and say my capsule cures what's wrong with you, and you're still taking medication, don't blame it on my pill. What this man did in 40 days, he was having side effects. So instead of blaming it on the TTL pill, he went to the doctor and said, I want you to reevaluate me on the drugs you're giving me. They reevaluated him. They said, we got to get you off the blood thinner, and they cut his dosage from 5 pills and a patch down to half dosage. 2 weeks, he went back again, and they cut him all the way down to just 1 1/8 of a pill, no patch, and his blood pressure was normal. So if you're taking other medication and this corrects it, or you have side effects, have your doctor say, hey, I'm going to get on a natural herb for arthritis or for stamina, but I'm on other medication. I want you to monitor me. Like sugar diabetes patients, when they're cutting their insulin down and taking only half to a fourth, obviously they don't need the high doses of insulin. It's nice when people check their own insulin rate every day. When they're on my TTL pill, then they automatically catch it. But if you don't test yourself, then I do recommend having the doctor monitor you, because it's a non-selective plant steroid. When you take it, it's non-selective. It's going to make everything in your body work back to its normal peak. Yes, sir.
My fiance takes funeral coating for migraine headaches. Would this be useful?
No, the migraine headaches, I have another thing that I've just added to my line that works real good with TTL. It's MSM. Are you familiar with that? Okay. A lot of people are taking vitamins and all, and I've been a vitamin freak all my life. MSM, your body is made up of 3 basic ingredients: water, salt, and MSM. You get MSM from everything you eat: fruit, meat, vegetables. You reproduce new cells every 24 hours. MSM is what produces a healthy cell. Okay, the meat that you eat, it has no MSM hardly, because they put them in these feeding lots, dry grain, dry hay, so there's no MSM that they're getting to replenish, the MSM they need for you to get it. You get it from the vegetables that you eat. You bring it home, you cook the heck out of it, you've killed it. So the only thing you're getting to produce a healthy cell is from fruit. And if it's not picked quickly and ate while it's still fresh, then you're feeding an unhealthy cell by taking vitamins. A lot of times you can totally eliminate your vitamins if you're making a healthy cell. You don't need all the vitamins. In other words, we're producing an unhealthy cell, so we have allergies and migraines and things like that. And the testimonies and the information I've read on MSM does a lot of what you're asking on the migraine. My sister's had allergy problems all of her life. Since she's been on MSM for about 4 months, it's just totally gone. But MSM and TTL, we found, she's an art teacher and she has to take TTL in order to hold a paintbrush to draw and paint and all in class. She found by being on the MSM, she's able to cut her dosage of TTL down. So they come in together, they run parallel, they complement each other, then they separate again. And TTL is more expensive than MSM. So I highly recommend both of them. The MSM is not my product, but I have added it to my line because I found out we need that before the vitamin. You need the vitamins to feed a healthy cell. You need MSM to make it. Any other questions? Alrighty. I'd like to move on to the Collodial Silver. Not everybody knows what Collodial Silver is. I'd kind of like to give you a little history on that. Up to the 1930s, 1940s, when you got sick and went to the doctor, they gave you Collodial Silver water. It kills over 650 known bacteria, viruses, and fungus. The only reason we quit using it, though, it only had a 4 to 6 month shelf life, so if it wasn't used in that time, the manufacturers would have to discard it and start over again. In Europe, when everybody was dying of the plague, they found that the rich people weren't getting sick. They eat off of silverware, silver plates, silver goblets. The colonial days, when they'd milk a cow, didn't have refrigeration, they'd put a silver dollar in the milk. Kills all the bacteria, and the milk would stay fresher longer. The covered wagon days, they'd stop with the covered wagons. They have the water barrels there. They'd have to load up with water to get to the next watering hole. Well, when the horses are in there urinating and one thing and another, they would put their pure silverware in those water barrels. Kills all the bacteria and viruses and fungus. They didn't get dysentery. In the Civil War, the enlisted men would be issued a silver canteen of water. Officers would be issued a tin canteen. Officers a silver canteen. They didn't get dysentery. So what we're doing, we're rediscovering colloidal silver. Now, what do we know about it? Well, they've dumbed this down over the years, and killing that many virus. 90% of my usage of colloidal silver is external, not internal. But I can take the little glass here, 8 ounces. I can whip this up, and in 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, I've got a full 8-ounce glass of full strength of colloidal silver. Now, a friend of mine that's a manufacturer bought some colloidal silver from a major manufacturer, had it lab tested, and they found that they told him to discard it, it was worthless. And this came from a reputable colloidal silver manufacturer. They're putting food grain food coloring in it to give it the consistency of color they want it to have. They're putting additives in it to keep it suspended. So the colloidal silver is using itself up. The way it works, when you electrify pure silver, 99.99, there's a chemical reaction, and it releases itself in a gas, and those gases are ions. They're only 15 times larger than an atom, but they're that small. People say, well, you can get a metal buildup. Well, from everything I've studied, an ion is so minute, it literally goes through the lining of your stomach into your blood system and starts killing bacteria. Any one cell bacteria, the ions act like a magnet. They just cover it up and smother it, and it passes on and can't affect you. To have a metal buildup, you'd be having to take silver the size of flour and take a tablespoon or 2 of that a day. Then you could have a metal buildup. But an ion is so minute, when you flush, your body flushes itself out every 7 days, it can literally push the colloidal silver out of the system. When they talk about the ppm, and I've got literature to go with all the little generators, I'm selling them $6 for one or 4 for 20. We've got an article right here. I'm in the same article. One man's selling them for $80 for a 3 9-volt unit. I've got the same one here, and how do we switch that over? Alrighty. I've got one here, $6 for one or 4 for 20. All you need is a single 9-volt battery. If you made a quart once a week, a quart will normally take you about 30 to 40 minutes to make a quart. I can make 8 ounces in about 10 minutes. If you made a quart once a week, it'll last you about 1.5 years to 2 years. The reason it's got that 6 months clause in there, the hotter the water, the faster it'll make. If you get the water right up to boiling point but don't bring it to a boil, it'll make it in half the time. If you get the water out of the refrigerator and start off, it's going to take twice as long. At room temperature, a quart of water, I can usually make it in about 30 to 40 minutes. I like a good consistency of smoke up and down it. When you fire it up, it looks like cigarette smoke coming off of the silver. When they talk about the ppm that comes with the literature, they're talking about parts per million. Well, when you take parts per million of anything, when you're talking about colloidal silver, you want it to be pure silver parts per million you're getting. Therefore, you don't want to use, if you're using it internally, you don't want to use tap water. Tap water has lead, copper, zinc, and all kinds of additives of foreign objects of ppm. If you get too many ppm in your water, you're actually drinking something lethal. Now, when you electrify the silver, you want to use distilled water when you're taking it internally. When you electrify distilled water, there isn't anything to make the connection from the positive to the negative, so therefore you want to use, they recommend either sea salt or pickling salt. You don't want to use table salt that has iodine and other additives, which is a ppm, parts per million of another object. I like to get pickling salt myself. I do a lot of canning and oil. You can go down to Walmart for 87 cents and buy a 5-pound bag of pickling salt. If you had a little jar of it, it's going to last you for years. With 8 ounces, 8-ounce glass, I'll probably put 3 to 5 grains only of pickling salt in it. Using a quart, I might use 8 to 10. Some people like to put it, pre-dilute it in a little eyedropper, and then all you do is put a couple drops in it. But the only reason you're using the salt is to make contact. So it also talks about using a brown bottle to store it in. The reason you want to do that, if you want to do it that way, I don't, sunlight will make it separate. The collodial will fall to the bottom quicker. Don't store it in the refrigerator. The refrigerator will make the silver separate and fall to the bottom. I put mine in a mason jar. I put it in the on the bathroom shelf and close the cabinet. It's dark, so there's no sunlight's going to be separating it. But like I said, 90% of my uses is external, but think of it as highly concentrated antibiotics. Anything that's a bacteria, virus, or fungus, it's going to kill it usually in 6 minutes or less. I use it as a mouthwash. Your bad breath is bacteria, so I'm killing all the bad breath without having to buy mouth soap, mouthwash. Yes, sir. The good bacteria, you'd have to take quite a bit of it. There's certain cases that I'd take a quart or two of it a day if I thought, there's something specific that I wanted to kill, malaria or, some foreign object that's going to kill me if I don't kill it first. And then after you go through that week, 2-week program of overtaking it, if you're taking it that much, then go out and get yourself some good clean yogurt or cabbage and things like that to add the good bacteria to you. Yeah, but from the studies I've seen, there's a real good article in the Exotic Research magazine on collodial silver and the myths and the lies and the truth about it. This is one of the best articles. It's not written by me, however, it's my competition, and I'm giving him credit on it. But the Exotic Research, this is a back issue for $5. You can get them there at the bookstore. This is one of the best articles on collodial silver and its myths and why they've been lying to us on trying to get us away from it. They can't make any money on it. Acne for teenagers. My daughter's 16 years old. One of her friends had come in there with severe acne. I'll go into the kitchen and make up a whole quart of this and give it to the kid on the way out. Wash your face with it twice a day and let it air dry. 3 to 5 days, that acne is almost totally gone. Diaper rash on a baby's bottom. They put collodial silver drops in babies' eyes when they're born, so if the mother has any venereal or bacteria in the womb, it doesn't blind the baby. And there's no side effects on it. Ringworm, mange. I've had people with their kids had some ringworm problems and their hair falling out. Just put that on there. I would apply it full strength and let it air dry. Yeast infection for women, they can douche with it. My wife, she's always had a yeast problem since we've been married 21 years. When it flares up on her, we'll each drink 8-ounce glass of this twice a day, and then she'll also douche with it. That way, if I have the yeast infection from her, we're not just passing it back and forth. You can put a tablespoon of this full strength in a gallon of lake water, stir it up, wait 10 minutes. Now you've got a gallon of lake water with no virus, bacteria, or fungus in it. Anything that's a virus, fungus, or bacteria, external or internal, apply it full strength, and it's going to kill it normally in 6 minutes. There's nothing that works better and closer than collodial silver. I highly recommend it. We've been using that over in Europe for the last 6.5, 7 years I've been going over. And we've gotten some drastic improvement. We took it over and told them about it, and they said, well, we don't have antibiotics in this country. We use collodial silver. This is the only country that's gotten away from this little generator. The way I like to hook it up, and I do it this way, I just take a glass about the same size, turn it upside down, and then when you drop them in there, you want to keep them separated. Don't let them touch. And within 2 to 3 minutes, you'll start, not even that long, about 30 minutes, you'll start seeing a silver cloud off of it. And I like a real good consistency. Some people say you got to have at least 27 volts in order to make it work. An ion is an ion. When you electrify pure silver, it can only release itself in one size. And most of you scientists in there know that. But when I talk to people that's not, they read an article, you just got to be at least 27 volt or it's not going to work. Well, if it releases itself at all, it's all going to be the same size. So the thing does work. You don't have to. If you're afraid of taking it internally, then let's forget about that. Think about the 90% of the usage of this that you can use it for. Myself, when I'm out on these trips, traveling all the time, and I make up a glass of this, instead of just pouring it out, I like to keep it clear, and I unhook it, and I keep hooking it back up. But when it becomes full strength, I'll drink a glass of this once or twice a day at these shows because I'm out eating foreign people's food. I don't know what they've got in it, and I don't want to get food poisoning, and I can feel a difference. Athlete's feet, diaper rash. The list just goes on what all you can use this for. Is there any questions on it? Yes?
You say you use distilled or purified water to answer those things. Is that because if you're drinking normal water, you're drinking the water anyway, you're drinking whatever water, is there a problem using it in the water that you normally drink? Like, does it cause the metals to come out of the system?
Well, what it is, when you're using distilled Distilled water, you know there's no foreign ppms in there. Well, what I would do is take a tablespoon of this and add it to the water I'm drinking. I mean, there's quite a few cities here in the U.S., they tell them don't drink our water. Boil it first or go get some store-bought water. The water that we're giving you out of our tap is undrinkable.
What I'm asking is you're drinking the water anyway. That's your normal consumption of water. You're taking this into your body anyway.
Yeah.
Is there a problem putting silver into that water? I mean, you're not going to add anything to what you're already drinking.
Okay, if I'm drinking tap,
Electrolysis, the metals fall onto the water.
yeah.
I mean, it might not look very good, but is there a problem?
If push came to shove, the Y2K thing happened, I couldn't get any distilled water, I'd use the next best thing. And if that's not available, then I'd use a staircase going down. I'd go out and use pond water, beer, orange juice. I mean, in Egypt, back in 2,000 years ago, they was making collodial silver out of wine because their water was so polluted. The reason you want to use distilled water for internally, because it's the safest, purest way to go. But if you don't have...
You're saying if you drink distilled water, right?
Well, actually, a friend of mine went and got a distilled water generator, and then he done some research. That was the worst thing he could give his family. You're starving yourself. No oxygen, no mineral, there's nothing in it. So all you're using distilled water for is a highly antibiotic for the internal use. If you're using it externally, use your tap water. Not a problem.
But I'm saying you're drinking that water anyway. I mean, you're drinking, you're given water that you're drinking, you're taking that into your body every day, whatever happens to be in there.
Yeah.
Is there a problem putting silver into it as well?
No, I mean, if I was going to drink some tap water and I thought it might be infected, I'd take a tablespoon of this full solution. Just think of this as highly uncontaminated distilled antibiotics. You see what I'm saying? If you don't have the distilled water, then yeah, take the next step. But I have read some research, if you get too many ppm foreign parts, it's almost lethal. So you're taking a chance taking it internally. I know it, but when you're when you're electrifying it and all and adding the collodial silver to it, and then you've got zinc, copper, lead, and all that other stuff in the water.
That's my question. You're actually activating that and making it into a smaller form of the poison.
Yeah, right. Yes, sir.
Is there a question in the last speaker was having a problem with the idea of making colloidal silver with tap water?
For external use,
The question is that, because I would understand that if you use tap water for mineral content, the conductivity is too high, and your colloidal silver being made has particles that are too high. And the whole purpose is to use distilled water to have a slow and very limited dispersion of silver at a low rate, and thereby giving high quality colloidal silver. When we do have two productive materials, the silver, the quality of the colloid is bad, and your particles are too big. That's why we use why we use distilled water or pure water,
well, when you electrify the water, I mean, I'm not as sharp on this as a lot of people that's here, and I don't claim to be. From my understanding, when you electrify that water, you're electrifying collodial, all the other foreign parts, so you're breaking it down to a finer part. You see what I'm saying? And that could be lethal. In other words, that's capable of going through your system where the larger part couldn't do it. This can literally, it's an ion, it's only 15 times larger than an atom. It can literally go through the lining of your stomach with copper, brass, and larger parts. It's got to go through your urinary tract and on out, so it's not effective. That's from my understanding. Yes, ma'am.
How do you determine the size of the particle when you're making this silver? You know, some of these bottles advertise 1 to 5 microns, and if you get larger than that, they say that it sets up a toxic reaction in the body. What do you
This article here says you can get it up to 250 parts with no effect, and I believe it. The longer you leave it in, okay, the size is all going to be the same. An ion can only release itself in one size, an ion, and all ions are the same. They don't have big ones, fat ones, skinny ones. Some people have come to me and they say, well, I leave it in, you say 15 to 20 minutes, I leave mine in for 30 minutes, and then I have to take less of it. Everybody's got a different theory. You know what I'm saying? The longer you leave it in, that's going to give you more parts per million, but the size is all going to be the same. I like a good consistency of smoke all the way up and down. Any others? Yes, sir.
What would be the consequences of drinking a glass of collodial silver every day, 16-ounce glasses?
I do. Now, I get on it for a week or two, and I kind of back off of it because they said you might get too much. I don't believe that. or you might start killing the good bacteria. I get on it as a body flush out. Kills parasite, viruses, fungus, and bacteria. So I flush my body out, and then I've got a week or two before I'm going to start accumulating those back into my body. I know other people that I just take a tablespoon once or twice a day. There again, I've done my research, and I feel comfortable about drinking a glass of it when I'm out on the road. I'm drinking water that my body's not used to. Like I go up to Philadelphia, the water in Dallas is different. That can give some people dysentery just because of the difference in water. And I don't like to eat somebody else's food. I don't know how long they've prepared it out in the open before they've given it to me. So I'll drink a glass of that once or twice a day, definitely when I'm out traveling. When I get back home, I kind of get off of it. But I do make a quart of it every week, and I use it. My dad used it as a body splash. Your sweat is a bacteria. Well, we're supposed to sweat, but instead we put on bacteria and maintain all those toxins. So he applies it as a body splash. When he gets out of the shower, you don't always sweat just under your armpits. Sometimes in your crotch and your feet. In the summertime, you sweat and start getting a rash. You apply that as a body splash when you get out, you'll sweat, but you'll notice the BO is not there. As a bacteria, and the Collodial Silver will cover it up. It's a one-cell unit, and it smothers it. Anything larger than a one-cell bacteria, it actually seems to help it grow and be healthy and all. It's just the bacteria, the one cells, that's really affected by the Collodial Silver. Was there another hand back there? Yes.
Is there an acclimation period when you start using it internally? The reason why I ask is because my first experience, I had a little shot glass of it, and I had diarrhea that same day as a result.
My sister.
And he makes it with DI water, 18 megalom for DI water.
So he's using something I'm not familiar with on the water. I know my sister had diarrhea, and she was taking medication, and it wasn't helping. So she quit taking the medication. She made up some Collodial Silver, and it stopped the diarrhea. Went in there and killed the bad bacteria. I mean, everybody's system's a little different. And the type of stuff. I mean, everybody's got a better Cadillac or a better mousetrap. I don't like to buy someone else's product because food coloring, additives, ours is, the reason we quit using it in the 30s and 40s is because it only had a 4 to 6 month shelf life. So they're doing something foreign to it to give it that 2 to 5 year shelf life. They're putting vegetable oil in it to keep it suspended so you can see it. That's what a lot of them is using, vegetable oil. That way you put a laser in there and see it shiny.
Yeah, this DI water is like I only got 1 parts per million or something like that of any contaminant.
Now, the only reason you're using pickling salt or sea salt's going to run you about $2.50 at the health food store. 87 cents, you get a 5-pound bag, so don't waste your money. I try to save people money anytime I can. The only reason you're using the salt is to make the positive and negative conduct. So if you're using a water and it's not distilled, well, do I need pickling salt? Well, there's only one way to find out. Hook it up and drop it in there. If you get a reaction, you don't need any salt. That's the best way I do. But for external use, now, if the Y2K thing happens, I can't get distilled water, I can't get good, healthy chlorine water. I use rainwater. I'd use anything I could get. Now, if it's lake water or pond water, I might want to siphon it through a diaper a couple times and get any large particles out of it. But the stuff works. I mean, I could find 15, 20 things in your house that you buy, use on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. I can do the same thing with Collodial Silver that you're spending money for. You use 409 to put it on your meat cutter. When you switch from meat to vegetables, you're supposed to clean the board, so you use 409. I don't know if 409 disinfects 650 known bacteria, viruses, and fungus, but I know Collodial Silver does. Put it in your stock ponds, your water and all. There's just so many things you can use this for, and we're just rediscovering, what they dumbed us down over the years on.
Doesn't sea salt have minerals in it?
Well, some sea salt does, right. You're right. And some people are going to the health food store and getting sea salt, and they said, this isn't looking the same as what you had. Well, they got to looking, and it has iodine. They're adding iodine to sea salt now. Get pickling salt. It's the purest form you can get because sea salt's got, and that question's been brought up before. But all the instructions in the libraries and all says sea salt. But that point that you just made, it has other minerals and irons and all that in it. I use pickling salt because it's readily available, it's cheap, and it's supposed to be about the purest form that I can find. Epsom salt give you diarrhea, you get too much of it. Well, I know that. I don't know what I was got in it, but I know I took too much one night, and I didn't like the after effects. So for 87 cents, I'll just waste 4.5 pounds and have a half a pound for 10 years usage. I'll let you have my Epsom salt, though. I've messed with that stuff. Yes, sir.
Gentleman over there, you don't want anything with sulfate in it because silver sulfate is extremely insoluble.
Right.
You won't get any silver in the solution.
Yeah.
But you don't really have to use any salt. You use pure distilled water, it'll just take you longer.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I'm using a single 9-volt battery. Now, if you're using the 3 9-volt battery, it kicks out 27 volts, where mine only kicks out 9. Now, the only difference with my 9-volt, it's only going to make you about 3 quarts to a gallon, and then it's going to shoot that 9-volt right in the booty. So you're going to have to replace the single 9-volt, but that's better than walking around with 3 9-volts.
You can make colloidal silver without using any salt. It just takes longer to get started. Or if you want,
Well, you're expediting the operation, and you're making it concentrate in a short amount of time. You're right.
but you can use a little bit of your last batch rather than
Yeah.
salt.
Yeah, that's true. Just like the old yeast thing, where they had a bacteria and they'd add it to the bread to make the yeast for the next batch of bread. What I did, I went down and got a solar battery charger for a 9-volt. Comes with 2 rabbit ears, or alligator clips. I didn't even use a battery. I just hooked it right to this hookup and used it right out there in the sun without even a battery attached to it. Now, that's something I ran across. The way I'm keeping the cost down on this, only the positive is going to have any reaction, so I made that a heavy gauge. The black is a positive. It's going to be there when the other has totally deleted itself, so I made that a thinner gauge. That's why you're going to see 2 different sizes. But that saved me a third of the cost of the silver, so I can keep it down and keep the cost down. You know, you can get the $80 one here, or you can spend, I've had people that buy this at the show because we've been at the same show. What's the difference between that $80 one and yours? And I said, well, about $74. That's the only difference. But the thing works. You can get creative with this stuff, and I mean anything that's one of those 3, bacteria, virus, or fungus, it will kill it normally in 6 minutes. Yes, sir.
Why not always use just one of these little 9-volt plug-in devices that use a 9-volt battery to replace one?
Yeah. Almost everybody has had a radio that had an adapter that you hook into the wall, then you plug it right into the side of the radio. I've got probably 5 or 6 of them at home that the unit I use it on is no longer around, but the adapter's still taking up space in the garage. I've had several people, what they'll do, they'll just cut the end of that plug off that goes into the radio, they cut that and they do a splice and they just use it on 110 direct, and that saves you money, right. But I sell a lot of these to missionaries in Thailand, Russia, Mexico, and I've made it up for that. And then when my dad got on stage and showed it at a church, the pastor called me and said, I want 50 of them. Well, I was just soldering them at that time, and I was using the little plastic thin jobby, and they would snap or the weld would come off. And then that's when I came out with a heavy, heavy-duty plastic that's going to last you a year and a half to 2 years. I don't want to sell you something that says it'll last a year and a half, 2 years, as long as you don't wear the plastic out and the weld and the solder breaks. So this is electrical hookup. Now, when you use it, it's going to oxidize on the positive side only. What I do, I go down to the store and I get me one of these synthetic kitchen pads. And all you do is just sit there and you scrape that across there 3 or 4 times and you're back to normal. Take a paper towel and wipe it off for any oxidation powder, because it will oxidize on you. And if you allow that to build up, then it's not releasing itself as readily, and then those chunks will start falling off. You have black oxidation sitting in the water. But I mean, people with toothaches, I've had numerous people with toothaches, and I'll make this up and they gargle with it. 10, 15 minutes, that toothache is gone 9 times out of 10, almost 10 times out of 10, because that's the bacteria that's down under the gum. You'll never have gum disease. But earaches, if you've got a nose congestion, put it in a spray bottle. Instead of drinking it and waiting for it to come back up through the blood system, spray it right up into your nasals. It's going to kill everything up that it comes in contact with in 6 minutes. Blow your nose, now you've got a fresh batch of bacteria you can kill, and you can just staircase it right up your sinuses. It's the bacteria that's up in there causing all the headaches and all.
How long will those probes last, the silver?
About a year and a half to 2 years if you made a quart a week. The battery will make probably about 3 quarts to a gallon. The hotter the water, the faster it'll make. The colder the water, the slower it will make. So if you can make your water up to, not boiling, they say don't boil it, but bring it right up to the boiling point and stop, it'll make it in half the time. If you get your distilled water out of the refrigerator, it's going to take twice as long. But there again, I like a real good consistency of that smoke all the way up and down the jar. And every time I use it, I just take it and I shake it up real good. That suspends anything that might have fallen to the bottom. I do also on my TTL tablet, we also have another issue. It's the blue one, and it has a big article on me with my picture and the write-up on the TTL. Steve Elswick, he's concentrating on it's better than Viagra, which it does. It's been proven. I mean, that's all the proof that's been done is on sexual deficiency and bodybuilders. I'm the one that has taken it a step further. I educated Muscle Media 2000, EAS owns them out of Golden, Colorado. They had never heard about it. So I sent them a case, and in 30 days they wanted my natural ingredient. I wouldn't sell it to them. They ordered another case. 2 months later, they came out with a capsule with Treblis terrestris in it. They blew me out. They don't know what they've got. They don't know the dosage. Their Sapion consistency is 20 to 28% Sapion. That's the active steroid ingredient. That's what mine was. That's when my capsule used to be 1 capsule per 44 pounds of body weight. But then I went overseas and I found a natural Sapion strength 40 to 48%. So you're taking a big horse pill of theirs for 44 pounds, where you're taking, when they say theirs is 45%, the Tribustan claim theirs was 45%, and my lab test proved that mine was the same Sapion content or higher, so naturally I assumed mine was 45%. Well, I found out later it wasn't. It was 20 to 28%. Well, I can't tell everybody Tribustan's brand name isn't 45%, but I can say, okay, how many pills per pound? Compare it that way. GNC, I educated them on it 2 years ago. They never heard of it. They now have 3 different capsules with Treblis terrestris in it. One of them, mine's 250 grams, 1 per 88 pounds. They have 1 capsule, they sell 100 capsules for $19.95, 1,200 milligrams. Look how cheap that is. That's only 5 to 8% dehydrated top, plant, and root. There's no extract strength in there. The one that they have equivalent to mine is 60 capsules, 500 milligrams. What they did, they doubled the 20 to 28% Sapion to match my 40 to 48. Theirs is 60 capsules, $48.95. I've stayed ahead of the game over the last 6.5 years. It took me 3 years from the time I saw the pill to get mine in the hand. It took me 3 years in cost and lawyers and everything. Yes, sir.
Is the old method of putting a silver dollar in milk?
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah. It kills bacteria. Yeah, they used to drop that in. I was telling guys, you know, they dropped the silverware in the water barrels on the side of the covered wagons. He said, you know, I read that in one of my history books. I thought they did that so the Indians couldn't get their silver. That's what he told me, because he'd read it in history books. The pioneers would put their silverware in the water barrels, and it does. What you're doing here, I'm making highly concentrated antibiotics. Now I can take a tablespoon of that and throw it in 1 water barrel of a gallon. I can throw it in this. In other words, you'd have to have a silver dollar and drop it everywhere. With this here, you just popping in a tablespoon per gallon, waiting 10 minutes, and now you've got a gallon you can do something with. You can put it in your milk and purify your milk, kill the bacteria, and stay fresher longer.
Yeah, I heard the same thing. When you open a container of orange juice and milk, just pop a little teaspoon of Collodial Silver
Yeah.
in there, and it'll give it another week lasting refrigerator.
I also,
No worries about bacteria.
yeah, I also sell a stabilized oxygen that I've been using overseas, and I put oxygen in the milk. But if you've ever had food poisoning, 1 of 3 things will occur. You die, or 2 to 4 days you think you're dying, or you get your stomach pumped antibiotics, in about 18 hours you feel like you're going to start to live again. So with the stabilized oxygen, I had chicken salmonella poisoning in Russia one night. Before I could get to the bed, to the bathroom, I was making a heck of a mess out of that Russian's little apartment, both ends. Put 10 drops of oxygen in a small glass of water. I forced it down and hung on to it. 30 minutes, I'm back to normal. So now what we do when we go into those third world countries, Collodial Silver claims that it'll kill that bacteria and food poisoning usually within 3 to 5 hours. Well, I can take stabilized oxygen, and 30 minutes I'm back to normal. It kills botulism, salmonella, all that stuff. So when we go in and get invited to somebody's house, we don't want to be impolite and embarrass them and say, no, I don't eat your food, it'll kill me. We go ahead and eat it. But before we leave the table, we get a small glass of water. We put 10 drops in it. We drink it. We don't get dysentery. The macho buddies of mine that go over there, I've been there, I don't need to do that. You ought to see them for about 4 or 5 days in that bathroom. They look pitiful. So we eliminate that before it happens.
Penetrated China market yet? Been able to get into China?
No.
I believe they could really use it. From when I was there just 10 years ago, they recommend not to drink the water that comes out of the faucet.
Yeah.
Boil it first.
Yeah. Russia is one of the most contaminated countries of the world. They have all the contaminated waste that we've got, but no restrictions. Everything goes right into the waterways from all their nuclear plants and from this plant. I mean, it's more polluted than China because they have more pollution to pollute. And I've tested my products in Russia since '92, and I'm real happy with it. You know, and I know my product. I've tested it in those countries, and I've seen the results.
In Tucson, you can still buy natural milk that's not been
Homogenized. Pasteurized, right. Was there another hand back there? Oh. 4 to 6. That's why we quit using it in the 30s and 40s. Because collodial means suspended. Well, when you suspend something, like a bird when it's flying through the air, eventually he's going to drop. You see what I mean? Silver's the same way. You're electrifying it in an ion, and it stays suspended. But eventually, gravity's going to bring it down. And that's why. And when they tell you they've got something that's going to last you 2 to 5 years, my collodial silver, ask them what they've put in it. Yes, sir.
Could you explain how you measure the salt for
Well, keep in mind, the salt's only being used to make a conduct. So I would add 5 to 8 grains in a quart, maybe 10 up to 10. Put the lid on it and shake it up, because when you drop the salt in there, it's going to settle to the bottom. These rods are only 3 1/4 inches long, so they're going to be up at the top, so there's no connection, all the connections down at the bottom. Take it and shake it up. If you're not getting a response, then you know to keep adding salt. I don't want to tell you, you got to put 15 salt grains in there. Now, the other man had one of the best solutions, like the old yeast making bread. Keep some of your old solution, put it in the other, and forget the salt. And then you know you don't have contaminated salt because the last batch has already been purified. So you're redoing. You're not bringing bacteria salt back. You might have some bad salt, and you're adding it to the next batch before you even get started. So that's really the best way. Whoever brought that up is add the old collodial, a couple drops of the old collodial silver in there. Should do it. Yes, sir.
Sorry, I came a little late, but I'm fascinated. What's in these rods that makes it work?
Okay, the pure 99.99% silver. When you electrify silver, the chemical reaction, electricity going down through it, releases a gas, and those gases are ions, only 15 times larger than an atom. So when they say you can have a metal buildup, well, if you're taking silver the size of flour and a tablespoon a day, yes, you could have a metal buildup. But an ion, only being 15 times larger than an atom, is so minute, it literally can go through the lining of your stomach straight into your blood system and start killing bacteria and funguses and viruses, okay? Every 7 days, your body naturally flushes itself out. An ion is so minute, it can literally push right through the cells and everything and flush it out with everything else. So when they tell you can have too much, you can have a metal buildup, I got my questions on that. But I'm not a professional on this. I'm not claiming to be. I just, from my studies, and you know, you get on the internet and hit collodial silver on a search engine, and you can read a lot of library reading in just a few hours, and that's what I've done. And I ask you to do the same. Anytime you hear something, go back and verify it yourself.
Does the quality of the water affect the results at all? I mean, we have well water on us.
Okay, well water, you won't need any salt because you're going to have some type of mineral or substance in there to make the positive and negative. That's the only reason you're using the salt, is to make that connection. Now, down there in East Texas, the water coming out of the ground down there is so iron ore or whatever, the runoff is red. Where the soil's dried back up, the water's condensed down because it's not raining right now. But the water it's got so much rust and particles and all. So I'd watch my well water, because if you get too many foreign parts, that's lethal. Because what you're doing, you're taking a foreign part and you're electrifying it. You're making another ion. You're making whatever's in there smaller than what it was when you started off. Drinking it by itself didn't hurt you, but when you make it so small, that foreign object, that it can literally go through the lining of your stomach with the collodial silver, well, you don't know what your big parts can go on through your urinary tract and come out on your shoey, you know. But when you make it an ion, it literally has the capability of doing things it can in its natural form. Externally, you use anything you want. Tap water. My dad, he uses tap water and drinks it, and he doesn't use distilled water. But you know, he's 74 years old and bullheaded, and I can't convince him, Dad, it ain't that much. I'll buy it for you. It's only 50 cents a gallon. Yes, sir.
First part of the question, do you have information on your table on TTL or whatever it is?
Yes, sir. I've got 2 magazines. The blue one has an article on me, and the $5, the back issue. He's pushing the Viagra part of it, which is great. My wife thought it was the first couple months, but after that, she said, you know, we got to do something. So we did. And then I've got the black one. It has the best article I've seen on Collodial Silver. If you want to read the
Just a quick one-word summary, what does TTL stand for?
Tribulus terrestris L. That's the Greek name of what it is. It's, you know, a little sand burr that sticks to your socks in the summertime. This is the extract from the root of that, and that's all that is. But that is a natural plant steroid from the sapion family, and the L is a luteinizing hormone. You can also check on me, SCA, and then spell it out, international.com, and there's a lot of information we put on there. And then Steve also has me on his website under this issue here. But
Have the product here, then is that the idea?
yes, sir. And the instructions on how to make the Collodial Silver, $6 for one little generator or 4 for 20. The instructions on how to use it, and a lot of the ways, you know, it's beneficial and all is in there also. They make great gifts. There's not many things you can give somebody for $5 that's worth anything, but this can save lives, and acne and scars and diaper rash and ringworm and mange. And I mean, the list just goes on. Yes, sir.
Anyone who's interested, there is a Collodial Silver mailing list on the internet. Silver-list at Eskimo.com, and you'll get about 300 emails a week.
Yeah. But it's out there. If nobody knows about Collodial Silver, I highly recommend you to do some homework on it. And if you think you can get a toxin, because I had one church bought 100 of these, and in about a month, less than that, he sent me back all but about 8. And he says, I can't sell these to my people because the gray lady, we found a picture of her on the web. The silver lady, her lips turned silver, her fingernails turned silver. When she was 14 years old, she had a silver poison from Collodial Silver. I don't know what kind of water they used back then, how thick or how heavy. Was it shaved? Was it silver the size of flour the doctor was giving her? Was it pure, you know, Collodial Silver with distilled water internally? Or was he using the tap water, or you know what I mean? So that's the only one. I know penicillin kills some people too, but thank God they didn't take that off the net. Yes, sir.
That silver substance that caused those people's skin to change was a substance called, in the old days, it was called arginol. And it was a high concentration of colloidal silver. And the solution was to be sucked up into the nasal cavity and into the sinuses to kill sinus infections.
Mm-hmm.
And some people, like always, exaggerated the use of it and did have skin color change as a result.
Okay.
And that is what caused that. It's a substance called arginol.
And you know, a lot of times your pharmaceutical companies, when they run up against this, I've seen where they bought out Collodial Silver manufacturers. Well, they put some lies out there to make you quit taking it because your doctor didn't prescribe it, you shouldn't take it. Well, for 2,000 years, I can show you where silver has been used all the way back to the Egyptians back there, 2,000 years ago. They used to take their vats of water and they'd line the inside with silver. I mean, people, they've dumbed us down. And if you're afraid to take it internally, don't be afraid to take it externally, because there's so many uses for it. And if the Y2K thing happens, there's not many things that's going to bring you out of it. There's not many things. And if the Y2K thing doesn't happen, it still saves you a lot of money. Dandruff, that's a fungus or a bacteria that's in your scalp. Use it for that. It's going to kill it in just a day or two. There's so many things you can use it without having to, you know, take it internally. All right, is that going to be it? But I'll be over at the bookstore the rest of the day. If anybody has any questions, or just come up and catch me anywhere during the conference or at the table or wherever, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions or work with y'all. All right? Thank you. Thank you. you, sir.
Good, 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 good. All right. Thank you, Steve. Okay, a little program change for everybody's awareness. Unfortunately, Mr. Roger Sears, who appears next in your program, first in your hearts, is unavailable to be here today. I don't know how many of you were aware, but he was under the weather to the point of hospitalization a few weeks back, and he thought he could make it, and unfortunately it just didn't turn out that way. So wanted you to be aware of that, because the person that will be coming up next is Joseph Bender, who was the next scheduled speaker after him anyways. And we'll have him on momentarily. But gives me an opportunity to point out a few things for you. First of all, Exotic Research and OnSyn Premier have joined forces to offer all of the lecture series here from this conference in full streaming video over the internet. And to view the video lectures, all you have to do is go to Exotic Research's website at www.exoticresearch.com. And Exotic Research in this format is one word. So that's www.exoticresearch.com. And you'll be able to watch any of the conference speakers from throughout the entire program at any time in the future. No. And it's extrapolated and explained once you go to that site on how to bring up any of the particulars that you would like to see. And with OnSyn Premier, we also have, guess I didn't get that. We also have a lot of different videotape subjects and formats besides the technology and invention format, and we're going to try and slip a few of these in here to expose you folks to them. This is a new film based on Zechariah Sitchin's work, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. And this is based on his book, Genesis Revisited, in which he skillfully links ancient records and artifacts with the findings of modern science. It makes a compelling case for his theory that highly evolved intelligent beings capable of space travel have existed in our solar system since long before the dawning of humankind. That they have at one point, for reasons of self-survival, created man in their image and likeness, and that they may well even now, as they attempt to study and perhaps ultimately colonize nearby worlds, be hampering our unwelcome efforts in that direction by interfering with our space activities. The Sumerians, the world's oldest known civilization dating back almost 6,000 years, have bequeathed to us in their writings on clay tablets and in their art extensive and detailed chronicles about these intelligent beings, whom they worshipped as gods and to whom, by their own account, they owed many skills, especially their amazing knowledge of cosmic events that triggered the formation of today's solar system, and through their familiarity with this structure, taking a new look at the meaning of facts and events recorded in the book of Genesis and elsewhere in the Bible's Old Testament. Sitchin paints a broad picture of man's origins and place in this corner of the universe, and shows in the process how today's science is really only rediscovering things that were common currency to our ancient forebears, a concept that seems to run through a lot of different fields that we get exposed to in these different exotic research concepts that we try to bring to you through the magazine and through our conference presentations, with a clear implication that they may soon be facing a dramatic new chapter in the history of mankind. For example, there is a clay tablet that has a complete illustrated rendition of our solar system. Now, intriguing as that may be for a 6,000 plus odd year old culture, the real kicker is that it is replete with Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, which the astronomers out there may know no one knew about 6,000 years ago. So, in fact, Pluto was only discovered, I believe, in 1930 or thereabouts. So we hope you'll find that an interesting videotape experience, and of course it's available in the bookstore behind you, and through our online catalog that can also be accessed at our website. So wanted to put that out there, and we'll be starting our next speaker presentation, Mr. Joseph Bender, who will be talking about water. Sounds mundane, but trust me, it's not. In approximately the next 3 or 4 minutes. As soon as we get our audio-visual caught up.